All right, what's up, guys? It's Kyle with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. This is episode 343. Today, special guest Steve Parente, owner of 13 locations at this point, Procare Physical Therapy. And we got Evan to my left. Evan's our marketing guy at Newell Strength and for KyleNewell.com stuff. So, going to have a good conversation today, see where it goes. So, Steve, first thing I want to jump into before we get into any business stuff or success stuff, what did you play growing up as far as sports?
Yeah, my father was a high school shop teacher, and he was also a tennis coach. So, when your father's a coach, tennis coach, you play tennis. So I played tennis, but I also played football in high school, which was a strange combination. So it's a fall and a spring sport, so it worked. So I was a good tennis player, but I wasn't a tennis player, I was like a football player playing tennis. So I was like a doubles player, big serve and volley, big at the net, So, yeah, that's what I did. I was a tight end for football and tennis player.
And that was in Jersey?
No, I actually grew up on Staten Island.
Staten Island,
yeah.
That's right.
Went to an all-boys Catholic high school. I went to public school all the way up to 8th grade, and my dad, who was a public high school teacher, said, "You're not going to public high school." So we all went, my two brothers and I all went to all-boys Catholic high school for 4 years.
Cool, man.
Monsignor Farrell, pretty well-known school in Staten Island. Good school.
Now, with the sports, with the football and tennis, who stands out as far as a coach that you had that, really stuck, or a lesson that a coach gave you? Like, what comes to mind?
Yeah. That's easy, actually. Everyone has that. I think everyone has this person in their mind. It's a good question. But so I played football like in the Sandlot. Literally, I had like the Dallas Cowboy helmet with like the plastic face mask that it said "Do not use." It's not a real helmet. You know what I mean? Like that's the helmet I grew up playing with my buddies out in the field. And then when I went to high school, Farrell had like a really good football program. And I was like, I'm going to go out for the football team. I'd never played organized football in my life. And I went out for the football team and, just reasonably athletic, pretty tough. I went out. I didn't know a thing about organized football. I didn't know how to run a play. I didn't know what they were called. I didn't know anything. So my freshman football coach, Coach Tobacco, he was a great coach, great guy. And I was pretty smart, Maybe it was relative because everyone else was dumb. I don't know. But joking. But, I learned the playbook right away. I was studying because I had to figure it all out. And I figured the best chance I had making the team was to go out for offensive line. I was pretty good size. I was a little undersized, but I figured, let me go for offensive line. So I was like the sixth offensive lineman. I literally played left tackle, left guard, center. They were teaching me how to play all the positions. And because I played all 5 of the positions on the O-line, I could get up. I break the huddle, I get up, I look up, and I'd say, let's look at the defense. I knew everyone on the line. I knew what they had to do because I had played every position. So I was doing a pretty good job, but I was like the 6th guy. And then one day, Coach Tobacco says to me, "Parente, get over here. Could you catch?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could catch. Like, of course I could catch. That's what I've been doing with my buddies in the Sandlot all these years. We're just playing like tackle football with stupid pads on." And he throws me a football, and he's like, "You're our new tight end." So that's how I became a tight end. So Coach Tobacco, the guy was great. But, he knew I never played organized football, and he knew who he had, the kids coming up from Pop Warner. But, it takes, I think, a special mind to look at people and see potential in them, and I think that's why I kind of admire the guy.
Yeah, that's cool. Being able to see.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
See something that you might have had a strength for.
Yeah. He didn't give up on me. He didn't write me off. He didn't say, this kid never played. He gave me a shot, It was fun. I had a good time.
That's cool, man. Now let's talk about from that, after high school, obviously you went to college. Did you start going for physical therapy right away, or was that something that you kind of just worked into?
Yeah. Yeah, I said to Evan today, I said, "What are we going to talk about today?" And he's like, "Just tell stories." So I feel weird talking about myself, but I'm glad you asked these questions. I have a story for everything, So I wanted to be a physical therapist because I played football, got hurt, went to physical therapy. The guy was awful, but it was interesting. And a friend of mine tore his ACL. It was just interesting, So I had good grades in high school. My SAT wasn't good. I mean, I don't even, 3 people know my SAT score.
Did you break 1,000?
So anyway, I didn't have great SATs, and I remember going to a college fair with my dad, And the guy from Keene University, he said to me, he's like, listen, your son's never going to be a physical therapist. He's like, he just doesn't have the grades to get in. And we were like, oh, jeez, this sucks, you know? And he's like, yeah, a lot of them are like burned out guys that couldn't get to med school or, you know, guys, you know, it's not easy to get through, you know, get into these programs. They're very competitive. And he was right. I mean, he wasn't wrong. But we found a small school up in Buffalo, New York called Damon College. And the requirements to get in was like, you needed like a 90 average. You know what I mean? And I had like a 90.2 average. And I got in. They didn't care about my SAT. It's a small school. They were just trying to put people in the seats or whatever. And it's like, you just got to get through. And they took so many kids. They took 300 PT students. They didn't even have that many slots in the PT school, but they figured in 4 years, you know, after a few years, they'd wean them out. And it was one of those kind of things. So, you know, that's kind of like my story where I found the one place that took me and I made the best of it, you know? So that's my story with PT school. I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, look, if you get good grades, you have 100 doors open. If you get really bad grades, you might have one door half open. You're going to have to kick the door in type of thing. And so that's, you know, that's kind of a little bit my story. I mean, I grew up in a good family and I was, you know, I had a good education, but I found that one place that took me, you know, and so I wasn't going to lose that opportunity.
And then seizing that opportunity, like the path to becoming a physical therapist, and then we'll go over that progression. So you have 4 years of the undergrad, and then what?
Yeah, so you got to remember, this is 1990, 1991, and 4-year physical therapy programs were like still existing, but they were dying out. They went from 4-year to 5 to 6, now they're 7. And so I actually squeaked into like the last 4-year program. And they have 6-year programs now that are very similar to what I did in 4. So it was like, they call it like a 2+2. If you get through the 2 years and hit a certain grade, you're guaranteed to get in for the next 2. That's what Damon gave me. And that's how they weeded people out, because they said after 2 years, do you have these grades? If not, sorry, you can't. You have to redo another year or you're out of here. And so they have that now. They have what's called a 3+3. 3+3. If you come out of high school and you know you want to be a physical therapist, you could get accepted directly into a program. And if after 3 years, if you have the grades, they're going to allow you to move forward into the latter 3 years. And it's called a 3+3. So that's kind of like how I got through. There are other programs out there that you actually get your undergrad degree in like biology, neuroscience, whatever it is, exercise science, and then you have to apply for the follow. Those are 7-year programs. I mean, it's getting, if you ask me, it's getting a little ridiculous. I did it in 4 years, but yet these kids are going for 7 now. And
Why do you think that is, that they're stretching it out? Is it just the business aspect as far as getting more money from them?
Yeah, it's money.
Yeah.
Because I look at what they're taking. I mean, they're not taking anything different. I mean, I did 2 years of, I guess you'd call undergrad, even though it was just 2 years of school. But man, we did 2 bios, 2 chems, 2 physics, anatomy, calculus, statistics, all in 2 years. It was brutal. Now they're doing that in 4. So, and they mix in a few other little classes, but we didn't have all the other little classes. We just had 4 years. It was basically pre-med in 2 years. Brutal. Organic chemistry. I mean, they did all that in 2 years. So now they're just stretching it out, get more, you know, more time, more money. You know, I did 4 years. It cost $50,000 to become a physical therapist back in 90. I graduated in 95.
And then what happened after that? Like when you graduated, did you stay up in Buffalo? Where'd you go? And what was the first job you got?
So my brother went to school in Erie, Pennsylvania, which was like an hour away in Pennsylvania. It's another small school, Gannon University. He's got a story too, but became an engineer at Gannon. And I used to go there to get help from my brother because he was an engineering student. He would help me with calculus because I didn't know how to do calculus, you know. So I would drive to Pennsylvania and he would tutor me in calculus, and we'd on a Friday night. And then we would on a Friday, and then Friday night I'd hang out with all his buddies, you know, we'd party in Erie, Pennsylvania for Friday, Saturday. I'd come home on Sunday. So I took my first job actually in Erie, Pennsylvania, an hour from Buffalo, because I knew all his buddies. All of my friends I graduated kind of moved out of Buffalo. And in Pennsylvania, they were paying quite a bit more at the time. So I'm like, I know guys out there had found a great job, first job, and it was paid more. And at the time, I was dating who's now my wife, and she was still in PT school a year behind me. So I took a job an hour away.
And how long did you stay there for?
Just 1 year.
And then
she graduated, and then we moved to New Jersey.
What brought you out to New Jersey?
Well, my family. You know, she's from Western New York. New York. She's from like the Rochester area, but small town. She just felt like, hey, let's go. You're closer to the city, and New York, Philly. It was a little more action down here. She was from like a one traffic light type town, so I give her a lot of credit. She was like, let's start our life in New Jersey, close. We got to be either your family or my family, and there's nothing where I grew up, but there's a lot going on where you grew up. So that's what we did. So we got a place in Scotch Plains, actually, like a 1-bedroom apartment, and we were young. Got married a couple years later. Started a family at, I think I was 26 when I had my first kid, and I started my business when I was 27.
Okay, so you had your first of 4 kids at 26.
Yeah, I think it was 26, yeah.
And then what was the impetus to start your own business?
So when I moved to New Jersey, I worked for a company. I won't say the name because they still exist. But I just didn't like, I don't know. I was trying to become, I fell in love with that McKenzie method. And they almost discouraged me from doing it. And I was very frustrated with that. And I was like, why would you tell someone not to learn this? And I look back at it. Initially, you think, well, maybe it's too good. You get people better too fast. They didn't want that. I don't know. You start thinking money, right? You always think the worst. I don't know. I think some of the owners of the practice were like older, had big egos, and if you're doing something that they're not doing, they took it personally. I don't really know, but I was like, I got to get out of here, So I kind of always knew I wanted to go out on my own, and it was very hard. It was actually very hard because a lot of the insurance companies, I could talk all day. A lot of these insurance companies didn't allow new places to accept Horizon, Aetna, Cigna, United, all the healthcare plans. They were like, sorry, physical therapy is closed. The networks are all closed in New Jersey. And I was like, the networks are closed? They're like, yeah, Union County, we got 67 PT places. It was like Monmouth County. I'm like, this is ridiculous, It's like, how am I going to get out of here? So I was, you have to take all the plans, right? So I called, my wife and I, we had this yellow pad. I still have the pad. We have the yellow pad with all the insurance companies and all the names and contact information. And I just kept calling and calling and calling. I get the same story all the time. And I was like, I got to figure out how this works. Does this person on the phone say yes? If I could get them to say yes, will it happen? Finally, I realized that if they sent me this application, that was the key. They hold back the application. Once you get the application, you fill it out, you send it, it gets routed through, and you get in. But I had to get someone to send me an application. So it wasn't looking good. And then one day, it was a girl that worked for Oxford at the time. They merged with United now. But she says to me, I started talking to her. I'm like, where do you live? How old are you? We just started talking. I was like, yeah, let me tell you what's going on here. I'm like, this is killing me. I want to get on these plans. I'm working for this guy. I really don't like him. She's like, kind of made friends with her a little bit. I called her a couple times, and she's like, look, we might be able to get you on if you go to Hunterdon County, but there's like nothing out there except, farmland. It's like cows out there. I was like, I'd never been to Hunterdon County before. So I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I go, what do I need to get on? She's like, well, you need a physical location. We won't send it to your home your apartment in Scotch Plains. We won't send it to a P.O. box. You actually need an office in Hunterdon County. So I'm like, oh my God, this is brutal. I'm like, because this is one girl at Oxford telling me she'll send me an application. I'm like, what about the other ones? I was like, oh, Jesus. So I hung up the phone, and I was like, I went and called everyone back on the list. And I was like, yeah, I heard you had an opening in Hunterdon County. And they were all like, yeah, we might. And all of a sudden, they all started saying that, yeah, maybe Hunterdon County. So it was a weekend, and my college roommate was from Hunterdon County in Damon. How crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
I call him up. I'm like, dude, where'd you grow up? You were in Hunterdon County. He's like, yeah, my dad's a realtor out there. So my wife and I drove out, and he gave us a map. I mean, we didn't have iPhones. We didn't have phones. We didn't have cell phones, right? No internet, no cell phones. He was a realtor for Weichert and Clinton. He gives me a map and a phone book. We ripped the pages out of a phone book, all the physical therapy, doctor's offices. I brought it back to my apartment, and I started calling all the doctor's offices, any chiropractor. I needed an office, but I couldn't afford. I was 26. I couldn't afford to, build out space. I just wasn't there. And so, what I do is I started making phone calls, and I was like, hey, can I sublet an office from you guys? Like, how many days a week? I'm like, I don't even. At the time, I was like, I don't even care. I just need an office and a lease and like something cheap that I could actually say I have an office. And so I contacted a bunch of docs, and they were all, pretty much sorry, no, sorry. Docs always. There's one podiatrist in Flemington. He says to me, I'm only here 2 days a week. I could give you like 3, I could give you the other 3 days. I was like, well, I said, what if I took 3 nights a week from 6 to 9? He's like, yeah, let me see if I could get that done. Let me see, maybe we could work that out. I go, what do you mean? Isn't it your space? He goes, no, I'm actually renting it from Huntington Medical Center. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's a long story, but there was a surgery center in the building, and they needed 2 rooms to do like outpatient follow-up visits that the state required them to have, and they didn't even use them, but they had to put them in. And so this podiatrist was subletting from Huntington Medical. So they said, he went back to his contacts and said, this guy called, I know you're looking to rent more of the space, and he did me a favor. Someone at Huntington Medical allowed me to do it. They probably shouldn't have, in hindsight. But so I started giving him like a real cheap rent. It was like $400 a month. And I got the address. I got the space. I had no patients. And I went back and I started to call them all. And I said, hey, here's my location. And they started sending me applications. And that's how I got on all the networks. And then next thing you know, I was like, now what? I got to get business. So I got the map out, started driving around, knocking on doors, just doing, kind of like what Evan's doing, and just trying to get people to get my first patient. And next thing you know, here I am. Huntington County started Procare in 1998.
98. Who was your first patient?
That's a good question. I mean, I couldn't say it because it would violate HIPAA anyway, but I don't know for sure. That's a good question. I should know that. I'll say
where they came from?
No, I do. I walked in doctor's office in Flemington, and they threw me out like everyone else does, the first 5 times you go. And I said to the office manager, I was like, is there any way I could talk to the doctor and let's tell him what I'm doing? And they're like, nah, the doctor doesn't do that. I was like, it's very hard to get past that front desk. And she's like, I'll see what I could do. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before, So I turn around, I walk out. She goes, excuse me, by the way, do you happen to do McKenzie therapy? And I looked at her and I go, did I just die and go to heaven? Like, that's my thing. And she's like, I go, how do you know that? She goes, I used to work for a physical therapist up in Raritan. He was a great guy, great therapist. He was a McKenzie, he was like a black belt at McKenzie. I knew the guy. He was very good. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, that's what I do. That's what I want to talk to them about. She's like, let me see if I can get you to meet with the doctor, because I know all about it. My back got better with that type of therapy. I was like, that's awesome. So she called me back and she's like, look, give me a little time. The docs are like, she's trying to get them to do it, whatever. So 2 weeks go by, she calls me and she goes, you never guess, one of the docs in our office threw her back out. I'm like, send her over. And next you know, she limped into my office with a hot pack on her back, loaded up on meds, and she walked out. I did all the things I knew how to do, and I got lucky that day, and she got better. And so the doc's like, you weren't kidding about this McKenzie stuff. It works, like this guy fixed me like in one visit. I don't know if it fixed her, but like she really got better instantly. And it was one of those things, And so that doc started sending me people. And so I don't remember who my first patient was, but that was like my biggest moment that I could look back on to this day,
Yeah, and you mentioned luck, but it's probably just your persistence that you kept going, right?
Yeah. In hindsight, that's what is the persistence to get on all those lists. It was persistence to get that space. It was persistence to get that time. It's all just persistence. Yeah. It was, yeah. You're 100% right.
Yeah. That's why I love hearing about when people started, the story with that. So now, how long did it take you to really ramp up with the business? And then from there, what was the switch that made you decide you wanted to open up a second location?
Yeah. So I was working at that place where I really didn't like, but I would leave. I was in like Sayreville, and I remember I only had my place from 6 to 9 at night, my 3 nights a week in Flemington. So I worked a full-time job, drove all the way to Flemington, 6 to 9. Maybe it was 5 to 9. Anyway, And finally, I started getting some people through the door, and I was like, in order to make this work, and again, my wife and I are doing the billing out of our one-bedroom apartment in Scotch Plains. So I was like working in Sayreville, driving to Fleming. I get home at night, I was exhausted, you know. And then we're doing billing on the weekends. We didn't have a lot of patience, but we were doing it like on a dot matrix printer in our one-bedroom apartment. We didn't even know what we were doing, honestly, to look back. And I started realizing, I'm like, this isn't bad. Like, I think I can make a go at this. So I quit my job, and I took, instead of the 3 nights a week, because I only did that to keep the rent down. Remember that he was only at 2 days a week, so I took the 3 full days now. So I was there Monday, Wednesday, Friday all day, but now I had more time, market harder, you know, more availability. Things started to pick up, and right before I left the old job, a lot of the guys there were like, "Good luck, man. Don't forget me. Come back and save me. This place is awful," you know. And I was like, all right. And I was like, a year and a half, 2 years later, call a buddy of mine that I was working with back in there. And I was like, let's, you know, well, he actually said to me, he's like, you got to get me out of here. I was like, all right, let's do something. You know, I know how to do this now. I know how to get space, rent, leases, billing. I got it all figured out. I've been doing it for two and a half years or so. And so that's what we did. We kind of opened up our second place, went back and got one of the old therapists that I was friendly with, really good friend.
Where was that? The second place?
Hazlitt,
Hazlitt.
Homedale, New Jersey, yeah. And we went there because that's where he lived, and we felt like it was a good, you know, it was always good to live and work in the town that you're in, you know. It just seemed to work. So we was, let's just do it. So we did the same thing. We went and sublet some space. He kept his job, worked 3 nights a week, got it going enough that he could jump over full time. And we kind of took the same model, but I, at that point, had the formula down and just had to open. I mean, we were 20-something years old, you know, 26, 27, 28. And so, you know, that's what we did.
And now you just opened up location 13 in Hillsborough. Was that ever the vision to have this many places? Like,
Yeah, not really. You know, we got to like 4 because I grabbed another guy that I work with. So I grabbed 2 of them, and that said to me, like, you know, it was kind of like a come back and get me kind of thing. And you feel kind of like it's like you don't leave a Marine behind kind of thing, you know. These guys are good friends of mine. I mean, we work together every day. We love each other, you know. And so we had 4 for the longest time, you know, and it's a lot, you know. You don't know what you're doing, you know. You just, you know, you know how it is. You take growing pains, and it's hard. And then something changed with us. We outsourced our billing for years. That foot doctor actually introduced me to this lady that did billing as her own company, and she did our billing. She did a good job, you know. She did a good job, and then she wanted to retire. I was like, oh shit. I did a little bit of billing out of the dot matrix printer, and I turned it over to her for like 15 years, you know. And at that point we had 4 locations, 5 locations, and it was like we were overwhelmed by the billing, and so we were like, what do we do? Do we go to another company and outsource it? So I was like, I think the right thing to do is bring the billing in house. And then when we did that, we have so many great people in our company, but another person that works for us is just special, and she took on the task of learning how to do billing because we didn't do it. And she spent like 2 months in that lady's house learning, that lady who's retiring, learning how to do billing, brought it back. And then we actually felt like at that point we had like a centralized billing location that we had complete control over. And that's what we call central command till this day. So we have, you know, Tom, we got marketing, we got billing, bookkeeping, all that centralized. And now each individual office, we realize we don't need much here. We just need laptops, Wi-Fi, and some treatment tables. And so like scalability of a business, you start to see it start to happen where we could take on more locations and just feed that central command, the billing. And, you know, that billing side is and the central command part's all set. We got it all set. And so it's like a sausage factory that can make 50,000 sausage a day, but we're only at 20,000. So we had another location. Now we're at 25,000. You know, we could just keep, you could see the power of size at that point. And so now we'll probably have 15 locations by March. And we're not pushing that. we just have some really good therapists that come up through and they want a little bit more responsibility and they have the right mindset and like if you want to do it and it's the right time, the right place, let's do it. And so it's not hard now.
And how are you competing with, right? Like you're still, for lack of a better term, mom and pop organization with all these big companies and everything's being bought out by all the big, the hospitals. How have you continued to have the upper hand on them and continue to grow?
That's the key. It started with hospital systems. Now it's gone to private equity where these Wall Street firms are coming in and buying up and consolidating, they're rolling up all these little places, and they scale. They use the economy of scale and negotiating power with insurance companies, and they're very sophisticated marketing, and those guys are just tearing through the country right now, just buying up everything. It's kind of like how Home Depot and Lowe's became Home Depot and Lowe's, right? CVS and Walgreens, they bought up every pharmacy. We're a service business, though, and I tell our people that all the time. I was like, we're not selling a physical product, we're selling a service. So I don't know if we could grow because I could scale and we could negotiate better rates, not as good as they can, but if we could grow a little bit, do it the right way, and each of our offices has their own small town characteristics. It's nice when the person lives in the town and owns their, has a little spot in the location in the town. So we may be, 13 right now, but it feels like 13 individual offices, and that's how we do it. That's how we roll. So we try. I say try because it's not easy, but we have the benefits of a little bigger company, but we look small. We look small, hometown. We try to look hometown. So it's been working. Everything's gotten so big. We still look, even at 13, we look like the small place. So it's really. They really can't compete with us, in my opinion.
Yeah, use it to an advantage, being smaller than they are.
Yeah, you have to have the certain amount of size. But I really do feel for the guy who has one store because he's in trouble. He doesn't even know it yet, but maybe he does. But he's in trouble with this inflation and, salaries are going up and rents are going up and everything's going up and they have no negotiating power. So if you're a small place, you're still getting the measly rate that they want to give you, and I'm fighting to get more. And the bigger I get, I can maybe get some more crumbs out of the insurance company. The big guys are getting big money, but it's sad. It's basically happening in physical therapy. It's not going to be good, in the long run for guys. When I'm in a nursing home or when I need care, there better be Procares around,
Sure,
for people.
And now, you see, you have 4 children, 1 in high school, 3 still in college?
My oldest just graduated last year.
Graduated,
yeah,
okay.
He just graduated. So I had 3 in college last year. I have 2 in college right now and 1 in high school.
So how have you balanced that, the home responsibility with that many children, your wife, and then you're overseeing a large company? Like, what are the struggles with that, and what works for you as far as the balance? Harmony.
It's a good question. I think I've done a pretty good job. I'll pat myself on the back. I've always put a lot of, I never missed a kid's game. I've never missed any of that. I just figured it out. You make it a priority and you can make it happen. But it's not easy. I mean, I certainly didn't take paternity leave. Like I was like, my wife had a kid and she was still in the hospital and I was treating patients the next day and being like, I'll be right back. That sort of thing. I mean, that's just the way it was, wasn't taken off for weeks at a time. But as far as, you need support. My wife's always been supportive. Like when she was laying in the hospital bed with the kid in her hand, I was like, I got patience. And she's like, just go, just do what you got to do. But she trusted me to be, I had to be there when I had to be there. And I think we did a pretty good job. It's actually, the question really is like when a company grows, you go through certain periods where it gets really hard. And then if you figure that out, it gets really easy. And then it gets hard again. And if you figure it out, it gets really easy. And you go through these like ebbs and flows. And I've seen that happen in our company. When I was by myself, it was really hard. Then we got to like 4 locations and it started to get a little easier. And then we got to like 5 or 6. It started to get really hard again. And we went from small to almost medium. And those transitions from like small to medium were hard. And it's funny. Like I used to say, like, growing a business like a triathlon, the transitions are the hard part. Like, it's fun to grow it. And then you get to a point where it's like, two people left, key people leaves. And now you're like, oh my God, you don't have enough people. And you figure that out, and then you grow more, and then you have more people. And if you trust them and empower them and give them responsibility, it actually gets easier the bigger you get. I know that sounds crazy, but the bigger you get, it gets easier. But it takes time and it hurts. And a lot of people don't get through those transitions. They'll sell, gets too hard. And that's what these these private equity firms are selling, really. They come in like when you're in that painful state and you're like, I'm working 80 hours. My key billing person just moved to Texas. My wife is yelling at me. I missed 3 soccer games. They come in and go, let us solve all your problems, and they buy 70% of your company. So we've been able to fight through all that. So, but it's not just me. I mean, I have the most amazing people around me. I mean, it's just blessed. I mean that.
No, it's admirable what you guys have done. I look at it, from small business, now like you said, medium, whatever you want. But for a lot of people, managing one business is too much.
Yeah.
And they would give up long before they succeeded. So the persistence that you had and not giving in, I think, like you said, when things get hard, most people give into their emotions and they give up because it's tough.
Persistence, man.
Got to push through it.
Got to push through.
What do you got, Evan? Do you have any marketing? You want to ask him one marketing thing? What would you ask Steve if you could ask him for one piece of advice?
In terms of marketing, I guess, just when you started growing, I know it's different with physical therapy where you kind of go after doctors, but were you just focused on one thing and just chasing it to get clients in? Or were you trying a bunch of different things, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, and then coming back?
Yeah, that's a good question. Life's changed. I mean, I told you, I started this thing with no cell phone, no internet, and so what could you do? You see you run around and you chase docs, just try and, you figure they're sitting there on all these patients, and if they had someone with back pain and they trusted you to treat their patient with back pain, that was, like, to me, the most direct way to spend your money. It's like your money, your time, your effort, is to just market to physicians. But you're right. Like, over the years now, you have all these other things. You got Facebook boosts and Instagram, and you're trying to get followers, and you're like marketing to the public, and so it's a different game. We do that stuff. We do. And I always say it's a relationship business. When you have a service business, you're in a relationship business. And can you form a relationship over Facebook? And so the question is, if you can, how do you do it, and who does it the best? I think you can. That's why I'm at this gym. I tell Kyle all the time, I'm like, I'm here because I was watching his posts and they resonated with me. I felt like I knew this guy. I was like, someday I'm joining that gym. In fact, I tell this story all the time. I would see these Facebook posts with something about them caught my eye. They were interesting. And then I went back to our marketing guy and started yelling at him, going, what the hell are you doing? How come this guy, how come we need to do what he's doing, And so I learned a little bit about, social media marketing just from watching, And so, we're dinosaurs. We don't, I'm just an old physical therapist trying to figure this out, but we got some of the younger guys, like things that I think are interesting. The millennials look at me and be like, dude, Steve, you can't post that. It's awful. Like, I know what I know, But, so the answer is, I think in a service business, I think you got to form relationships. And if you could do it personally, great. Direct to the physician for us is even better because it's potent. They have a lot of patients. If you could build a relationship with someone who has a lot of patients, that's your best way. But if you can form relationships over social media, I think it's a win. To run billboards, and that's not a relationship. I've never had a billboard or an ad or anything like that ever. Never spent a dime on any of that.
So, relationship
all
marketing.
Relationship building, yeah. And I do consider social media to be a relationship building.
Yeah. You build trust there if they see you enough, right?
Again, I'm in a service business. It's a little maybe different than a product-driven business, but I don't even know. Even these product businesses are selling. They make an attempt to, give you the, like, well, when you come to our hardware store, we're not Home Depot. You know, we'll walk you down the aisle and show you where the nails are. You know, everyone tries to build a relationship, I think, you know. So
Yeah. Does that
Yeah,
help?
yeah, that's great.
is
Yeah.
that yeah.
Yeah. I think I was telling Kyle too, like just with marketing, like the first thing any business should do if they want to grow is focus on the customer experience, which is just like part of that relationship building. So if you want to get people in, you have to build that relationship with them and then grow that so they have a good experience. Then you can focus on promoting and everything else.
That's a good point. I mean, I think you're 100% right. I think if you put yourself in the sales guy, marketing guys, you know, you better make sure that what you're selling, they're giving. Because if not, you're in trouble, right? I mean, that's like, I don't know. I never took a marketing class in my life, but I mean, that's just common sense. If you tell me you're going to show up to this gym or this PT place and this is going to happen, and I show up and it doesn't, I'm going to be like, you're a fraud. You know, I'm going to feel like you wasted my time and I'm going to be pissed off. I'm certainly not going to tell other people about it. In fact, I'll probably trash give you a 1-star review. I wouldn't do that, but you know what I'm saying? People do that. So they get frustrated when there's that disconnect there. So yeah, but you touched on something else, which is repeat business. That is our number one source of patients. But when you start a new locations, you have none. So you have to get people in the door. Once you have people in the door, then you could get them to tell people and, you know, go back and tell your doc how great this place was, or go back and tell all your friends, and, you know, and then like, and if they really like you, they will do that. That is our greatest source of patients, which is repeat business and word of mouth. By far, it's about 80% of our business.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a good thing because no one could ever take that from you, you know?
No, and I could, you know, we see that with Steve, you know, how many people he's referred us, and then vice versa, you know, we're trying to pay it back, not out of obligation, but you guys do great work,
Yeah,
you know, and want to, you know, once you have that relationship, you want to help the other person
definitely. I got together with some guys. Let's stop talking about me. Let's talk about Newell Strength. I was hanging out with some guys last night watching a football game, and I was telling them all about the fasting last night. And I had a room of 7 guys, and they were all like, "You're looking good, man. What are you doing?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm doing this fasting." And, you know, I mean, I don't have to tell you. It's like 1 meal a day. That's crazy. And I'm like, it's really not. And here I'm sitting here. I'm selling the fasting. I'm telling them, you know, what you do, what you teach, and they start listening. And it was kind of cool. And I use this line. I give Kyle a ton of credit because I lost some weight and got myself into shape in the last year. And the one thing he said to me, I keep telling him this. He's probably sick of hearing it. He said to me, "You cannot form a habit with pain. It must be with pleasure." And it was a game changer for me. Mind mapping, I don't know what the hell that was. It was just good advice, but you're right. And I was like, I'm doing this 1 meal a day. I'm going to enjoy my meal. And I did that for 30 days. And next, you know, I'm in a habit of now eating 1 meal a day, and I enjoy it. And I'm losing weight. I'm working out. I'm getting better results. And I'm like, why would I not do this? This is great. I actually enjoy this rather than getting out of bed and eating like grilled chicken. Like, you know, now I'm not saying grilled chicken's bad, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah,
I eat
you
grilled
gotta-
chicken for a week, and then I'm like, I'm done. Let's go get Twinkies, you know? I'm sick of this grilled chicken. So anyway, but that's it, word of mouth. I mean, I sat in a room with 7 guys and basically told them about Newell Strength, told them the diet, this, that, and the other thing. That's how you grow a business, by making a change. And, you know, like Evan says, you got to back up what you're preaching. You know, you got to walk the walk. You can't just tell people what you are. You got to be it.
Yeah.
You got to be good, you know? So it's good stuff.
Awesome, man. I got a couple more quick ones for you. Advice to your younger self. Let's say when you're these guys' age, mid-20s, what would you tell yourself if you could go back?
I mean, I'm listening to myself talk, and it's like, I said to Evan, Evan, what are we talking about today? He's like, I just tell stories. I was like, all right, I guess I got stories. So I'm telling these stories. I'm sitting here going, yeah, I was pretty persistent. I'm just sitting here telling these stories, and you said that. I'm like, yeah, I was pretty persistent, you know? So I guess it would be silly to say, you know, anything other than that based on what I just said in the last half hour, but persistence is the key. I don't care what it is. So just failure is not an option. And if you want it, just keep going till you get it. I mean, I think that's the key. with that said, it is a different world now, you know? So I don't know, you know, I think the basics in life haven't changed. Maybe you have phones and computers and internet now. The basics haven't really changed. You know, be persistent and treat people right. And I think positive mindset is a big one. I don't know if you could. I don't know if you're not born with a positive mindset or a negative mindset. I think maybe some of it has to do with your upbringing and your life. I was very lucky to have great parents, and but I think being a positive minded person keeps you going, because if you don't, you're going to end up quitting because you just negative thoughts and emotions get into your head and you quit. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to make someone a positive mindset person, but I think that is key. So I have no advice for you there, but that's what I do believe is a key.
No, I think it all goes to me with the positive mindset down to your self-talk, being aware of that.
Yeah, you probably would know better than I would on how to turn someone from a negative mindset to a positive mindset, you know?
That's the first step, is catching that inner dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, because most people are negative. You know, that's the way the
Yeah.
brain is wired.
I think you're right. I think there's probably a way to do it. I don't know. I'm not sitting here tooting my horn, but people will say to me, "You're very positive." I'm like, "Really? I don't even know I am, to be honest. You know, it's just who you are, I think."
Yeah,
And so,
definitely part of that.
but
Last one I got for you before we hop off this episode. What 5 years from now, what do you see for your life? Not even just business, but like where you
Yeah.
at? What about your kids or the grandkids here? Like, what do you envision?
yeah, you know, I'm 49, you get to a point where you don't even know what the next move is, just because there's just, you know, you're just kind of waiting for your family to unfold a little bit, you know? So I got one working, he's been out of school for a few months. He's working in New York City. I got two more in college. You know, the one's in Michigan in college, the other one's in Maryland. Who knows, you know, where do they end up? You know, my daughter still got a few years here, and then she goes to college. So you just kind of wait. And so I don't have any big plans other than to keep doing what I'm doing, you know, enjoy it, have fun with it. I'm not in a, you know, I think sometimes people are in a rush to get to the finish line. You know, they're in a rush to be done because they want to feel like they got there and they made it. I think that's almost like an anxiety reaction. You know, I think that's like it's a reaction that people have to fear of failure, you know? So I'm just like, you know, I don't want to throw cliches, oh, the journey and all this stuff. I don't know. I just feel like I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I think life is, it's about relationships. And as long as I have good ones, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, you know, and enjoy it. And that's it. I don't have any big plans. I don't really set many goals. I know that's kind of weird. I don't. Maybe I should. I don't know. Evan, should I be setting goals?
Probably.
I don't set goals. I really don't. I just follow my gut, and I follow the people around me and the relationships that I form, and I just do whatever the hell I want to do.
So you follow your gut, and that's why I think most people need goals unless they have that intuitive, because the gut will guide you. The goal will guide most people because they don't trust that gut instinct. You know?
Yeah, that's
Gives them like
interesting.
a guide.
I'm just being honest. Like,
Yeah.
I truly have never set a goal in my life. I've never set a goal. I know this is kind of against what people would say you should do, but I've never set a goal. I just like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm going to do it. And then next, you know, and I don't know what I'm doing next. If you said to me, how many places do you want to have? I'm like, I have no idea. We could stop at 15 in March, and I never have another one again, and that's fine. It's just, I just kind of just get pulled along based on my gut and how I feel and the people around, and truly the people around me. I mean, I think
That's cool.
for me, that's everything.
You're very cool, man. And that last thing you said with the, it's one of my favorite quotes. You'll actually see it's on our Christmas card that you'll be getting. There's more to life than simply increasing the speed of it. That was Gandhi.
Mm.
You think like that, you know, kind of relates with what you said, and I think that's probably a good way to close. So next time we'll go over some, you know, mechanical, technical stuff. We'll get into some of the geek stuff.
Yeah.
With training and injuries and different questions I have for you. But this was really good. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, like I said, I had no idea what we were talking about today. You started asking me questions. I guess I have answers. I you know, have something to say. So
People love stories.
Appreciate you having me on. And anytime. Love being here. You guys have been great for me. I got to thank you guys. I mean, this place has really made a difference in my life.
Glad
Big
to hear
time,
that, buddy.
big time. And I don't just mean like big time, like mentally, physically, like clarity, the diet stuff you taught, the workouts, the people that are here, the atmosphere. This is a good place. I tell people all the time,
Thank
come
you,
to
Steve.
Newell Strength.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Don't forget, guys, to leave a review if you have not yet, and also share this episode if something in it resonated with you.